So he and Melina were a real thing.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen now?
I don't know. They must be friends on Facebook. You know, they'll keep in touch at least for a while.
Hey, what if they ended up spending their whole life together? You know?
You're so corny. Sometimes
No,
I'm just like,
I mean,
are you? What are you?
No,
A 12-year-old girl?
It's,
I mean, first love? Do you even remember who it was?
Yeah, I do. It was you.
Oh, please, like you're a virgin at 23.
No,
I don't.
You said first love, not first sexual experience. Okay.
Okay, fine.
The course of true love bumps and rattles through the Peloponnese on Before Midnight, Richard Linklater's third film about Celine and Jesse, who met in Vienna and then re-met in Paris. Julie Delpy and Ethan Hawke are in loquacious mood, wending their way from airport to dinner table to chapel to harbour. But the emotional storm clouds appear to be massing.
You're so working on our little night.
Hell yeah. I got a Trojan in my billfold and a rocket in my pocket.
I'm stuck with an American teenager.
I'm joined now by the Guardian film critic Peter Bradshaw and films editor Catherine Shord. Catherine, was it nice to see Celine and Jesse? It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It was heavenly. I mean, it's one of those things that before you're sort of worried about it because everyone who loves these films feels very invested in them, and they're so perfect, and you don't really even want to revisit them, let alone sort of see another thing that might disappoint. But in fact, it's just as good. It's absolutely wonderful. It's a perfect film, and it's it takes your breath away because it moves you just the same. It's incredibly engaging. Technically, it's astonishing. It's amazing not only to have these long, unbroken takes of sort of 10 minutes or whatever, but it doesn't ever feel stagey because it's not theatre. They're walking around. It's it's sort of easy to overlook the amazing logistical feat that this film is. For me, it was wonderful. The only thing was the ending didn't quite have the beautiful snap of the ending of Before Sunrise.
Oh yeah, but that's one of the great endings of the last 20 years, isn't it?
Yeah, it set the bar high, but you expect them to pole vault it. But apart from that, it was pretty much perfect.
Peter, how is this one different? I mean, they're getting older, and that's defining the character of these films, isn't it?
Yes, to some extent. I think this is different in a sense that there's less for them to be curious about. They haven't lost their idealism, and they haven't lost their curiosity about the world. They've lost a little curiosity about the future, other than in the anxious sense of what is the future going to hold with regard to our relationship with our children. That is the new thing. The relationship with your children is very, very new, and I thought very movingly handled, actually, very subtly handled. There's something almost miraculous about these movies, the emphasis they place on conversation and talking, simply not doing anything else, just talking, and making that absolutely gripping. I love it. I think it has a lightness without being lightweight. It's accessible and intimate and very intelligent, and it sort of enfolds you in its romantic grasp.
I love how, I mean, they're very self-absorbed and they're talking about big things, but it nicely undercuts it. There's a bit where they're walking along the footpath and he's saying, I'm glad I got off that train and spoke to you 18 years ago. It's the best thing I ever did. And she goes, oh, look at the goats. Yeah. And there's this sort of wonderful thing that real life keeps kind of intruding on this idyll and this reverie.
Yeah, its relationship with its own mythology is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? I mean, the way in which you've got these two books that he's written. I mean, it's like the Back to the Future trilogy, or it's potentially even better, which is not words I thought I'd ever hear myself say, because the levels of sort of reflection and interaction, and it's so beautifully constructed. It's absolutely magnificent like that.
I think if we're following this couple and we're invested in this couple, there will be people that are disappointed that all is not entirely rosy in their lives.
Well, I think they might think, as I thought if I was casting about for kind of flaws in it, I thought perhaps it is a little cliche that he's a successful writer and she's a less successful environmentalist. It might have been more interesting to have his career sort of hit the buffers and have her career as an environmentalist suddenly take off. That would be very interesting. The traditional thing in any compromise, in any relationship, is whose career has to suffer. Jesse's career doesn't have to suffer. He can live in Paris. Now he's talking about should they move back to the US. And that has triggered a very interesting latent rage in Celine. And I found that very interesting. Her dormant sense of resentment at him and his Americanness was starting to come out. Beautifully handled, though.
Catherine, do you think this is it? I mean, each time we think, oh, maybe that's the end of the story, and then 9 years, there's another one, and it's this kind of wonderful chance encounter again. Do you think that this is the right place to stop, or do you want them to carry on having these 9-year intervals with a new film?
I want them to carry on. It gives you something to live for, doesn't it? But also,
It does. That's sad, but it's true.
Yeah,
It's tragic.
it really does. But also, you know, I thought the second one, it couldn't have ended in a more perfect way. And yet, for me, this third one made it richer, made it more interesting. I hope they will do it every 9 years. I mean, I would say the one thing is that this latent, this dormant rage of Celine's, I'm not 100% comfortable with with who you're meant to sympathise with in this relationship at this stage, because she is pretty screechy and mad, and you're definitely on his side for the good last third of it, and he is definitely portrayed as the more sympathetic one.
And he gets the best lines in terms of coming back at her.
He does, and I did feel a bit uneasy about that in some sort of strange, femmy way, but maybe, you know, I haven't revisited the earlier works because I can't bear to, in case they're not as good as I remember.
I think in the
Maybe
first
she is like
two,
that.
she's definitely the more powerful one. He's the
Right.
kind of weak little kid.
He's the suitor.
And she's
Yeah.
the sort of sophisticated European.
I see, but is she still a little bit nuts and screechy?
A little bit, but
Women.
it's getting worse. That's what happens.
Yes.
If I could change one thing about you, it would be for you to stop trying to change me.
You're a very skilled manipulator.
Well,
You
I'm
know that?
on to you. I know how you work.
You think?
Yeah, I know everything about you. Here we go. Let's go through here.
I don't think you do, actually.
No? Well, I know you better than I know anybody else on the planet, but maybe that's
mean,
not
right
saying
now?
much. What?
This is great.
Right.
You know, I feel
Yeah.
close to you.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I don't know, I feel like you're breathing helium and I'm breathing oxygen.
What makes you say that?